It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 635 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record. And since it's Friday, it's time for another episode of Frontline Friday with my very special co-host, Bridget Gleason. Now, friends, just to let you know, today's episode is a repeat show, sort of like a summer rerun, only much, much, much better. Problem is, Bridget's been super busy lately building her latest startup, and I've been traveling a ton, traveling around the country, speaking at various sales kickoff events. So we haven't had time to get together to record new episodes lately. However, I promise we'll be back soon with brand new conversations. So in the meantime, enjoy this conversation about how to develop a mindful, focused mindset. How to manage your emotions in sales when you're frustrated without them spilling over to disruptive anger that just doesn't help you. We're also going to dive into the dangers of trying to multitask in sales. So be sure to check this out. If you'd like to see the show notes for this episode, go to andypaul.com/635. I've been mentoring and training sales professionals for years now, and one of the most important elements to career success is aligning yourself with a company that develops its employees, values their customers, and has a portfolio of products that can compete with anyone in the market. So if you're a top performer in your current sales role and you're looking for a fresh challenge to take your career to the next level, then CenturyLink should be at the top of your list. With its recent acquisition of Level 3, CenturyLink is a world leader in many categories, including cloud, security, real-time communications, and managed IT services. So if you want the excitement, challenge, and rewards that come from selling industry-leading services to the enterprise, then visit CenturyLink.com/accelerate. That's CenturyLink.com/accelerate. All right, let's start up Frontline Friday. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. This is another edition of Frontline Friday, my favorite day of the week, because I get an opportunity to talk to my co-host, Bridget Gleason.
Very special guest. Don't forget, very special guest.
Very special guest, Bridget Gleason. So, how are you today?
I'm super. I'm doing great today. Nothing to complain about. Nothing to complain about.
Nothing to
That's
complain
the
about?
last time. Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. It's the last time I had something really that I was complaining about, that I was unhappy.
No.
I tend to wake up happy and go to sleep happy.
Well, that's perfect. Wow.
I know. I'm one of the lucky ones.
So, what's your secret for emptying your brain before you go to sleep?
Gratitude.
Oh. I was going to say alcohol, but yeah, gratitude works too.
No, alcohol's, I don't think is I think that one's probably not as good. I think gratitude is when you can remember at the end of the day, God, what a great life. You know, we all have things to be thankful for. Mm-hmm. And there are definitely people that have real challenges. I feel like I'm fortunate that, you know, I've got challenges, but I've got so much to be thankful for. So that's what I try to remember. Try to remember it at night. I try to remember it in the morning, throughout the day, especially when I feel frustrated.
Well, here's a question for you along those lines. Something that I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about this is, how do you impart that to people who are at earlier stages of their career? Because, yeah, it's clear we learn as we get older how to adjust to the ups and downs of life better than we do when we're younger, and to spend less time worrying about them and fretting about them and ruminating about what I could have done differently and so on. I mean, as you get older, it's easier to sort of say, well, that stuff happens, right? And tomorrow's another day, and it'll be, as you say, wake up happy, and it'll be another day another opportunity to succeed, as one of my friends always says. So how do we help people who are, like I said, at the earlier stages of their career come up with this mindset, we'll call it, because we're going to talk about mindset today, and the gratitude mindset, if you will?
You know, gosh, Andy, it is hard. I mean, experience, it's one of the benefits of having a few more years on the planet is, like, I had a really frustrating morning. Here I say that everything's great, and it is. Oh my God, I had such a frustrating morning. As you know, my team is in Tel Aviv, and I am not. They are 10 hours ahead of me, and all kinds of stuff happens. And I get up around 4, and I've got phone calls and emails and text messages and Slack chats, and it's as if the sky is falling, okay, around my team. And I felt really frustrated without getting into any of the details, but I felt really frustrated. And I took a minute and I reflected on the fact that through my career, boy, oh boy, I've been a lot more frustrated than I was this morning. And I can't remember why any of those times I was so frustrated. Exactly. And that I'm frustrated about, I'm not going to remember. So I just was able to say, okay, let me just deal with what it is, because it's not going to stick. And I guess when you talk about how do we impart that, I think we try to model it. I think modeling it and then talking about it. I don't know any other way, is model it and share it. Share and give people permission to not get all worked up.
No, well, I like that. That's another way of thinking about it. Yeah, I mean,
because sometimes the expectation is, you should be really mad. You should be frustrated. Hang on to this anger. Hang on to the frustration. Hang on to the bitterness. Hang on to the disappointment. Like, don't let go. And I think to give people permission to let go and say, you don't really need to hang on to that. You let that one go.
Yeah, well, it still doesn't mean you're not going to go back and address the problem. It's just you're going to do it from a different perspective.
Absolutely. Right. It has nothing to do with addressing the problem or not. You address the problem and let it go. Don't hang on to the emotion around it. And that's hard. That's still hard for me. I can get worked up.
You?
I know.
Shocking.
I know. Shocking.
Well, but it's an interesting lesson. You know, we look at this period in our country's history where you could say arguably one of the most emotional political seasons we've seen. And one of the things that seems to be clear is that that those emotions haven't really dissipated much here several months after the election. Yeah.
Well, and people don't want, sometimes we get an adrenaline rush from big, strong emotions, from anger. I mean, it changes our body chemistry. And you get adrenaline from it. And so I think there are people who are also addicted to the negative emotion, just as much as you can be addicted to winning a big deal. You can be addicted to anger. You can be addicted to all of these. Our body chemistry changes. Mm-hmm. So we got to break the addiction.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the idea of addiction, because I was listening to and watching a video that featured Simon Sinek, and he was talking about sort of four core issues that challenges that millennials have in the workplace, but one of the ones he talked about was this dopamine driven addiction to our screens. And not necessarily our screens as much as what we receive through them, right? Every time we get an email, every time we get a text or something, we get the shot of dopamine that we become addicted to because it's pleasurable. And then we start thinking about we start anticipating when we're going to get the next one, right? And that starts becoming a distraction in our day. So it's very interesting.
What's funny about that is I have the opposite. I wake up in the morning. Mine isn't, oh my God, I'm so excited. Who's pinging me on Slack? It's, oh my God, really? This early? I haven't had coffee? Mm-hmm. Really? Like, I don't have a positive emotion. I have let me shut my computer for 10 minutes. Well, I'm not a millennial, though. I'm not a millennial, just in case anybody was confused about that.
I was. Huh.
I know.
So, it sort of leads to a sort of related question a little bit. And I was just thinking about this, because again, I was having this conversation with someone recently, is is I gave a workshop to a client not that long ago, and about 80 inside sales reps. And, during the course of doing this workshop, and it was very interactive, but at the same time, I could see that people were sneaking peeks of their phone and so on throughout the session. And so at one point I just stopped and I said, okay, well, raise your hands if you, these are inside sales reps, raise your hands if you keep your phone on your desk while you're making your calls. And 100% of the people raised their hands.
Wow.
And I've asked this in more than one instance, multiple instances of companies, and it's pretty much largely the same. Is here we are trying to keep people focused on a task, which is really focused on the customer, and yet we keep these what I call weapons of mass distraction right in front of us the whole time. And so I asked the question, and I said, okay, well, who among you, so virtually all 100% raised your hand, who among you will actually look at your phone if it buzzes or notifies you of activity while you're on a call with a buyer? And again, it was virtually everybody. Just say, oh yeah, they'll pick it up and look at it and set it down. And you think, okay, that's no big deal, right? Just a little harmless multitasking, except, the science is absolutely conclusive that we don't have an ability to multitask or rapidly switch between tasks. And so it's like, we talk about this addiction, just how powerful it is. That, in a sales context, we're willing to take our focus off of, or we feel compelled to take our focus off of the buyer because we're addicted to getting the rush of getting a text or seeing what the latest social update is or whatever.
Well, there's also, and somebody wrote a book about this, responsiveness. Mm-hmm. Needing to be really responsive. And I've had people say, I'm monitoring chat or text or whatever because I'm interacting with a customer. So I've heard that too, wanting to be really responsive, and we've got all the tools to be really responsive.
Right, but there's sometimes. So if you're on the phone with one buyer, you have to prioritize that. I mean, you can't.
Well, that's true.
You can't take your focus off of them because you might only have one opportunity to really capture their attention. We've talked about that before, right? You have to earn them more additional time in small increments. So last week we had spoken about that. And so, gosh, if you take your mind off the ball, eye off the ball, mind off the ball, for even an instant, there's a researcher at the University of California in Irvine who did a study and found that it can take minutes, multiple minutes, to sort of re-engage the level you were at before with just these little distractions. And so if you're thinking, gosh, I'm trying to conduct an effective Q&A with the customer, do some discovery, really listen to the answers they're giving, you just can't do that if you're looking at your phone.
Multitasking.
And you're trying to multitask.
Think about it, though. Think about the other channels where people are now interacting, like chat. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of chat, and how one person will be managing 4 or 5 different chats.
Right.
And they're having to switch context. We're also getting to this. I wonder how this is going to evolve for us, Andy. Is it going to persist and we're getting these little bits of information and that's all we're sort of getting, and it's not deep engagement? I know what we do is we try with the chats to move them to another medium of communication where,
it's personalized.
Again, it's more personalized, where it can be a little bit longer. And sometimes we'll move from chat to text to email to a phone call to in person. Like, it's these varying levels of engagement that we're able to get from a customer. But I guess to your to the point that we're speaking about, I just wonder how I wonder how these different communication tools and the fact that even millennials are used to doing this multitasking is, as they're coming of age, is this are the dinosaurs, okay? Present company excluded. I'll talk about myself only. Are we going to have to adapt to sort of this and incorporate it? Maybe not adapt, but incorporate this quick communication in these different channels as part of our sales process. It's not natural for me, but I feel being more and more led into it.
Well, but the thing is, the scientists are showing that we're just as humans, we're not capable of doing that efficiently and effectively.
But that doesn't mean but we may still do it and have it be ineffective and inefficient.
Yeah,
and still do it.
Well, that's true. We can go through life and count the things we do that fall into that category. But I mean, I was reading this article that talking about a scientist at Carnegie Mellon did test with some subjects where they were, see if I recount this correctly, is had three groups of people that one was sort of interrupted taking a test. I think they gave them a certain test, and one was the other group was interrupted, but then told once, but then told that another interruption was coming, and then the third group was never interrupted, but had been told that an interruption was coming. And that first group that was interrupted, that based on, they went back and re-engaged and finished this test they were taking. The conclusion was, and it sounds a little harsh, but basically it said that they scored substantially lower on this test than afterwards than before they'd been interrupted. And it was like, I think the conclusion was, they said, the interruption made the test takers 20% dumber. So if you think about that in the context of, you said you have a chat operator, a chat person that's managing multiple conversations, is just based on what science has found already, is we know a given that each of those conversations is going to be suboptimal. So as you do, getting them to a more one-on-one conversation, direct one-on-one.
Where they can be focused, where everybody's focused.
Where everybody's focused. This is a one-to-many. That really becomes an imperative.
Well, because think about it, the person on the other end, so on the chat, I mean, given all the statistics as well, they are probably multitasking too. They're probably distracted too. They probably have their phone out. Well,
for sure, because it's taking time between each of the interactions with the chat operator.
Well, and I just think that we're seeing more and more communication that is suboptimal. It's suboptimal, and I guess where.
Well, and that's
well, it sounds like I'm arguing the other side. I'm actually agreeing with you that even it's maybe because it's suboptimal on the other side, then we've got to focus even more on the task and the conversation and what that'll look like so that we can bring the most to the conversation. That just because other people are multitasking and maybe their attention is spread thin doesn't mean that ours should be spread thin in our job. That's not going to help anything. It's just going to be suboptimal plus suboptimal, which is double suboptimal.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways it's a call to, yes, the world is going this way, so differentiate.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, a quote from it's found from a professor at Stanford, a sociologist named Clifford Nass, they said conducted some of the first tests on multitasking, and he said people can't resist trying to do two things at once. His quote is, "are suckers for irrelevancy." Sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, if you're a salesperson, you can't focus, you can't be present for the prospect you're talking to. You can't give them your full attention if you can't listen to the answer to the questions that you're giving them because you're distracted by, what's that, a tweet, an email, a text, a chat, whatever. then yeah, you are perhaps on a path to irrelevancy because eventually the customers can find the information they need, whether it's from you or from somebody else.
Well, and I think it's not just needing to be focused when you're talking to a prospect or a customer. It's, am I able to focus when I need to make 40 phone calls? Am I able to focus and tune out the chats and the emails and the text messages and the noise around? Like, am I able to focus, or do I keep switching context? It's as all science points to, every time you're switching context or getting interrupted, it slows it down, makes it less efficient.
You're getting dumber. To use the words of the scientist, you're getting dumber.
Dumber, God. And if anything, boy, Andy, I don't want to get dumber. I have a thing about that. If I could do anything, I would get just smarter. If I could just add, if I had a choice, I would just, that's the one thing. I
Don't you think you are? Just by sheer compilation of experience and having more experiences.
I know, but I guess I'm saying, for me, I like it that you say you're getting dumber, because that, to me, of anything, that, like, you just hit my hot button. Like, I don't want to be any dumber than I am. And I don't think I'm dumb, but I don't want to be dumber. I don't want to be dumber. If anything, I want to be smarter. So the fact that multitasking is going to make me dumber, I've stopped dead in my tracks. That would stop me dead in my tracks. I love it. And I like it that it's not mincing any words. Not like, well, it's not that good for you, it's a little ineffective. No, you're making yourself dumber.
Well, that is, I mean, I laugh because that is, right, that is the net effect. If you think about it, if you're trying to engage in a conversation with a prospective buyer and you're just not tracking because you just took your eye off the ball to read an email that came in on your phone, even if it's just the headline in the first paragraph, let's say, wow, right? That's a problem. That's when you're on the phone. What if, and then if you're in person with them, I mean, this is the other thing that's, we sort of alluded to, but is that, as sales reps, if you're in the field talking to a prospect, you're in a meeting talking to a potential partner, turn off your phone and put it away. Put it away. Take it off. Don't leave it on the desk. Because, you leave it on the desk, and Cynic talks about this in the video that I referenced earlier. It's just like, you're just telling the prospect that they're just not that important to you.
Absolutely.
And so there's basic, first of all, why put it out there? Think about it, if you're in sales, why are you putting the phone out on the table?
Yeah, especially if you have an Apple Watch, then you don't have to put the phone on the table. You just have it on your wrist.
That's right. Then when it buzzes, you can look at your watch.
Right.
But the point is, turn this thing off. I mean, one thing I've done with the customers is I'll make a show of turning the phone off in order to get them to turn theirs off. To get them to turn theirs off. And also to tell them that
strategy.
This is important. So you turn it off in front of them and put it in a your back pocket, put it in a coat pocket, briefcase, whatever you have with you. And just put it away. But leaving it on the table, so on, just not a good idea.
That sends a message. It sends a very strong message. Maybe something better is going to come. Yeah, I agree with you. I do have an Apple Watch, but
as do I.
But I oftentimes won't even have my cell phone will be in a bag. But if my watch pings me, I'm not looking to see who texted or emailed. It's a pet peeve of mine. Also, people being really distracted by other things. If you're going to ask me for time, I mean, here again, if you're going to ask me for time, and you are, let's say, the seller, and I see you distracted and looking at your phone and, okay, now you've just told me how much you value my time. Not a lot. And I'm not very into that.
Yeah, no.
You've sent a strong message. You're not likely to get more of my time. You're not likely to get more.
Yeah, and you just have to make a good choice. And there's always a trade-off, right? And you sort of talked about it, right? 2 seconds ago is the choice is, stay focused on the customer and let this thing go, this temporary thing that I won't even remember. Right? Sort of like the worries you talked about before. I could be worried about something today, and then tomorrow I won't even remember what that was. So why did I spend so much time worrying? Well, it's the same thing with looking at your phone. When you're in a meeting with a customer, or you're in a call with a customer, in a day, you're not going to remember you got that message, right? You're not going to remember that, unless somebody's pregnant at the hospital and you need to go or something, medical emergency, but you won't even remember. So
that's right.
So it's not worth potentially alienating the prospect, making a less than a good impression by just checking whatever that random communication is.
I've never been good at multitasking. So this has not been a hard one for me. Very rarely will I talk on the phone, even with Bluetooth and all that, while I'm driving. I really need to be singularly focused.
Yeah.
I'm not good at multitasking. I don't like it. I want to be 100% there. I don't like it.
Well, I can have a good conversation with, a prospect or a customer while I'm in the client, while I'm in the car. But when I finish driving, I can't remember it. Right? Because I was focused on the conversation on driving. And, it's like another part of your brain you use to take notes, right? And
Good point.
It's like, I had one with a client not that long ago where he discussed a very great discussion, 20 minutes in the car as I was driving back from somewhere. And it was the only time they had available to talk. So normally I wouldn't schedule it when I was in the car. But I got back, it's like, hard time summarizing. So I basically, it's exactly what I told the client. I called her and said,
can we do that again?
Can we just go through the highlights again? And I fell on my sword because, hey, it's what it was. But never again. So, all right, Bridget, we've reached the end of the road for today.
But not the end of the road, period.
No.
Just for today.
Just for today. Just for this Friday. So, as always, absolute pleasure to talk with you. And friends that are listening, absolute pleasure to have you join us here today. Do please continue to send questions in. We didn't have one this week. We did last week, which we based our conversation on. So be glad to take those. You can send those to andy@zerotimeselling.com. And I guess that's about all I know for today. So Bridget.
That's all you need to know.
All right. Friends, thank you. Bridget, thank you. Talk to you later.
Have a great week, everybody.